So up first on Saturday in the 1 o'clock slot, we got the number 7 Indianapolis Colts going up against the number 2 Buffalo Bills. Um, the Colts just squeezed in this past weekend with a Miami loss to Buffalo. Kind of ironic that the Bills helped the Colts get in the playoffs. Now the Colts are gonna most probably likely lose to the Bills. So Colts barely squeeze in. What do you guys think about this matchup? Just looking at it on paper.
I mean, I think I agree with you. I have the Bills winning, as I'm sure all of us do. But I mean, a lot of people, we were talking about this before we hit record. A lot of people are overrating the Bills. I think writing off Kansas City, assuming the Bills are kind of a Super Bowl lock with the way they're playing. But I mean, people need to keep in mind they beat us by 45. Who we're one of the bottom offenses in the league, and then they went and beat Tua in Buffalo. I mean, it's really not that impressive of their run the past couple of weeks. Granted, Josh Allen's going to finish top 3 or 4 in MVP, so there's something to be said about that. But yeah, I think the Colts are. I mean, I trying to say that they didn't deserve to make the playoffs. I don't think that is true because their record says otherwise. But they're just seeing Philip Rivers in the playoffs. And he's such a game manager now. He's probably on his last leg. They're really relying a lot on Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. And, in the playoffs, when you're relying so heavily on your run game, I just don't see them being able to compete with the Bills. Not to mention the Bills are, I guess, have a certain number of fans in the playoffs now. And that is just added, fuel for them. So I'll take the Bills, but I think the Colts will keep it competitive for a good portion of the game. I don't see the Bills running it up on them by 20 or something like that. I think it'll be a closer game, but the Bills will pull away, towards the end.
Yeah, I'll agree with most of that. I mean, I don't think the Colts are necessarily a bad team. I think if they had really anybody else besides Philip Rivers in their center, they'd probably be a pretty legit contender. Like if you swap Josh Allen onto there, you're looking at a very, very good team. But that being said, the Bills have played very well recently. They've been blowing out some teams, not necessarily very good teams. The Dolphins are pretty good, but they beat the Steelers a couple weeks ago, which is great. They are kind of hitting their stride at the right time, so I think for this game versus Indianapolis, they should be good. But also, Indy, they're no slouch. They definitely have a very good offensive line, good defense, good running game. And as long as Philip Rivers doesn't, poop himself, we're trying to keep it PG. So as long as he doesn't poop himself, they should be competitive in this game. I just think the Bills are better overall. Josh Allen's really playing at a really high level. Diggs is unreal. The Colts, in order to win this game, are just going to have to play perfect defense. The run game's going to have to really get going against this Buffalo defense that has been a little better in the second half of the season. So I fully expect the Bills to win, but it could become close if things go right for the Colts.
What excites me most about this matchup is I feel like the Colts defense and the Bills offense is just such an even matchup on paper. That obviously could not be true. Buffalo could blow them out, and at the same time, Indy could hold them to under 10. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think that's a bit of a stretch, Indy shutting them out. But you have guys like Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner who have been eating up this year. Darius Leonard had himself an amazing game against Jacksonville. Once again, granted, it's the Mike Glenn and Jacksonville Jaguars. He's still been dominant all year. And Jonathan Taylor, he ran for 253 yards and 2 touchdowns this past weekend. Is Buffalo going to be able to stop that? Buffalo's defense isn't as good as it was last year, and their identity has become Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, who captured their receiving title this year. And I think his matchup with Xavier Rhodes, who isn't what he was, shut down the Rhodes in Minnesota. He's not at that level of play, but he's still serviceable for this team. But I think Diggs is going to win that matchup. I think it's going to be a competitive game through and through. But at the end of the day, I think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are going to be a little bit too much for this Indy defense. And I wrote a whole predictions article with scores and everything. So if you guys haven't, go check that out at Ride the Wave Media. I said Bills win this one 28-16. You guys don't have to give your score predictions. But that's
right.
Just
before we move on, I want to your point about the Colts defense and the Bills offense kind of matching up well. I think in a sense also, like, we've seen the Bills offense kind of struggle against teams earlier on in the midseason. I know we're saying they hit their stride, but we've seen Josh Allen kind of struggle against guys like the Jets and teams that you wouldn't really think of as having these stout defenses. So we see it's not like Allen hasn't really stuttered at all. Someone like Mahomes who's kind of been clean all the way through. Allen's had his moments. On the flip side, the Colts have against potent offenses looked really bad. They allowed 28 against the Steelers. They allowed 20 plus against the Ravens. The Browns put up like 30 on them. I mean, they've had games where they just look horrible. And I know they've had some injuries, so I'm not sure exactly which games they've been fully healthy. But I think there's a sense of like both teams, like there's no consistency on necessarily either side of that matchup. So you could have them both on, and which would be a great matchup. But you could also have maybe one side, hit a bad week, and then that benefits either the Colts or the Bills.
Yeah, I think the Colts are just one of those teams. It's very just iffy to me. It's kind of like almost like the Bears. Kind of. I feel like they're a team that like when they play really well, they can kind of upset your schedule, but otherwise, like they're really not great. And I like what you said, Jordan, that they kind of sputter against better teams. They're in an okay division. The Titans are great and everything, but the Texans and Jaguars are just kind of easy prey. Even though they lost to the Jaguars in Week 1, I don't think the Colts are a team that can really excel against a high-powered offense like Josh Allen. Like I fully expect the Bills to put up high 20s, 30-something points against this defense. Which I like the Colts. I think they're a good team. If they win, I can certainly see it happening. It's just I think the Bills are just on a really good roll right now. Not to overrate them, but I'd say besides the Chiefs, they're probably the second best team in the AFC. Bar none the Steelers, I don't really think are anything to.
We'll get
in
to
the top tier. So, what's that?
We'll get to the Bills being the number 2 team in the AFC later on in the playoffs. But for now, we're going to move on to the 4:00 matchup on Saturday. I don't know what channel it's on. I believe Fox, maybe. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think it's CBS, Fox, then NBC. So
this is the matchup that I am least excited for because these two teams have played twice already, and both matchups weren't even that stellar. You got the number 6 Los Angeles Rams and the number 3 Seattle Seahawks. This game is just so up in the air for me. I don't think the result is really up in the air, but the score I kind of flip-flopped on. The Rams, they don't have a starting quarterback right now. John Wolford is not a starting quarterback. Everyone's hyping him up. I mean, yes, it's an incredible story, but reality has to set in at some point where this team is going to the NFL playoffs. This guy who is fresh out of college, not even really a rookie. I'm not sure how old he is, but he threw for 231 yards and an interception against the subpar Cardinals defense. And I think we can all agree that Arizona would have eventually gotten it moving if Kyler Murray played that entire game. If he never went down, I believe Arizona would be in the playoffs right now. And even when he came back, he wasn't all there. You could see he was hurting. I know a lot of Cardinals fans are blaming that on Cliff Kingsbury, but we're not here to talk about the Cardinals. They're not in the playoffs. If Jared Goff plays, do you guys think it's going to make much of a difference? And how much of a difference does it make for you? Actually, let me put it this way. If you guys have the Seahawks winning right now, as of right now, I believe John Wolford is starting. If Jared Goff ends up getting the nod to play, does this change your prediction?
Possibly. I think if Jared Goff plays, the thing is he's definitely not going to be 100%. He's not going to be anywhere near it. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like a fractured thumb, dislocated thumb on his throwing hand, which is like the kiss of death pretty much, especially for a guy who's not even that good in Jared Goff. So the thing is, I'm looking at their old matchups, and in the past 2 games, which are obviously the only 2 games that they played this season against one another, the Seahawks have scored 20 or less points. So it really, I think, hinges on the Rams defense, whether or not they can make plays. Because I feel like the Seahawks tend to, they're a weird team in that a lot of times they play down to their competition, or that like when they can't get anything going, they really can't get anything going at all. So if McVay can kind of figure out a way to get at least something going on offense, and their defense can make a couple plays, it could go that way for the Rams. They could end up with a W, but I just don't really see it making a difference whether or not Goff's in there, because their running game is good, but it's the playoffs. It's a little different, and I just think the Seahawks have too much star power, there's too much firepower really for them to keep up with. So,
yeah, I agree. The point you hit on at the beginning about Goff not being 100%. So your question, Anthony, if Goff was inserted in right now, would it change my pick? No. But if I were assured that he was 100%, yes, I would flip and pick the Rams because I think Goff's the kind of quarterback with that elite defense that the Rams have, who have been great all season. They really haven't hit any bumps in the road. And the way they've played the Seahawks, like Pat said, I would say that the Rams have a distinct advantage on that end. And then when you have a guy like Jared Goff, who is a pretty good game manager, where he can just slow the game down, hand the ball off, short passes. He doesn't need to throw the ball down the field. That's usually a recipe for success. But if he's not healthy, it's tough to pick injured quarterback who's already the second best or the worst quarterback in the matchup. So it's like, if Wilson was injured, maybe you could still justify him over Goff. With Goff injured, it's tough to pick against Wilson in that situation. So yeah, I'm going Seahawks, but I think the matchup to watch is Jalen Ramsey versus Metcalf, because multiple times Metcalf's been shut down by Ramsey. I think in both situations he's been held to under like 50 or 60 yards, something like that. And Pat talks about the struggles the Seahawks have had. I mean, when your number one receiver gets pretty much exonerated from the game by the opposing corner, it's not good. And I think Tyler Lockett has been very underwhelming this season. He's not really a certified 2 anymore. I think he's more of a not at the skill level of Danny Amendola, but kind of how Amendola was on the team. He's a spot, here or there, big game, kind of a boomer bust. So I'm not sure he's someone you can rely on. And when Metcalf, is kind of pushed out of the game, they struggle a lot. So I still think the Rams could keep it close. I kind of expect a similar game to what we saw last time, what Anthony was referring to, and it's not a very entertaining matchup because I think it was like 16-13 or something. But I'll take the Seahawks in like a low-scoring game, just because I think Goff honestly will play, but I think he's gonna struggle most of the game because he's just not 100%.
Yeah, Jordan really hit on all the points there. I was gonna get into that Ramsey versus Metcalf topic there. Jalen Ramsey's locked down DeAndre Hopkins last week. What makes you think he's not gonna lock down DK Metcalf again? Who, like we talked about last week, the argument between him and Stephon Diggs. I mean, obviously now there is no argument. Stephon Diggs is better. He's got the receiving title. And I feel like we were talking last week and we were saying how DK Metcalf is more of an athlete as opposed to Stephon Diggs is a better football player. His route running is better. His catching is better. Just everything about Stephon Diggs in terms of football is better. Yes, I'll give DK Metcalf the nod in terms of some athletic ability, but when you're going up against a talented guy like Jalen Ramsey, it's not going to be easy at all. So for that reason, if John Wolford plays, I have the Seahawks winning 16-10, and if the Rams end up starting Jared Goff, I'm gonna say it's going to be a little bit closer, 16-13, if that's fair enough. So
Yeah.
As of right now, I'm sticking with 16-10, thinking that Wolford is playing.
That's one of the games, though, before I move on, is like where I think there could be that's an upset game. I mean, there's no guarantee that the Seahawks. The Seahawks really don't look good. I mean, they're stumbling in as best as you could with Russell Wilson. I mean, they really slowed down towards the end of the season, and although the Rams, like I said, if Jared Goff was 100% healthy, I'm picking the Rams. So it's that type of game where if Russell Wilson isn't on, you could see a 6-3 upset here in the first round. But
yeah, I'm just gonna say one more thing as well. Like you said, Jordan, I definitely think there's upset potential because the Seahawks barely beat the 49ers this past week. They won by 3 points, and the Rams are a lot better than the 49ers even without Jared Goff under center. So I'd say, yeah, I definitely agree. There's a ton of upset potential here. And I think it'd be hilarious. I feel like the Seahawks aren't really great playoff performers.
Yeah.
In recent years, they're always kind of hyped up and they always kind of fall short.
I recall a moment in 2015.
Yeah, I can't
remember what happened.
Think about. It's not. Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue.
It's on the goal line. I can't think of what.
So, speaking of that game, Chase Young wants Tom Brady. Up next on Saturday Night Football on NBC, we got the number 5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the number 4 Washington Redskins. Oh, I said it. It's bound to happen.
Cancel Anthony.
The number 4 Washington football team. there's a lot of controversy surrounding this game. I think this one's more interesting. I'm really excited for this game, mostly because I'm a Patriots fan. Tom Brady. I'm rooting for Brady this year. There, I said it. Uh, the way that Washington won the other night is surrounded in controversy, and I really want to talk about that because we're trying to touch on the important Week 17 games, excuse me, and I feel like that's been a hot topic over the last 48 hours. So, Jordan, Pat, I want to hear what you think about Doug Peterson's questionable decision making.
Okay, you can get started.
Jordan seems upset. I'm just gonna say that for the.
I mean, I can go. Pat wants a little bit of time. I mean, I honestly am the opposite, Anthony. I don't have a problem with it at all. I mean, if the argument is that Peterson needs to, this whole play to win BS is so dumb. You play to make your team better, and if you're out of the playoffs with nothing to play for, why are you going to win the last game of the season and push yourself further up the draft lottery when you can get closer to a top 5 pick? I mean, I don't understand the whole like integrity of the game is just BS that, that the Giants head coach and the team is like spewing out because they're mad. Look, you won what, 6 games in the season? You didn't deserve to make the playoffs anyway. Okay, so I don't know why you're complaining. And 2, it's like, again, the goal of Doug Peterson is to, if he thinks he's going to stay there next year, is to put the best, players in the team. The difference between the 6th pick and the 9th pick, which is what they were going back and forth with, is, you could get Jamar Chase or maybe you go after a defensive player that you need on the shitty Eagles defense. There's a significant difference in between the 6th pick and the 9th pick. So I have no problem with it. I mean, teams do it all the time. The Jets blitzed the Raiders on a Hail Mary, and Ruggs, got the touchdown, and the Jets stayed in the, Lawrence lottery. I mean, that was talked about, but no one cared then. It's because it wasn't the last game of the season, and because it didn't have playoff implications. So I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I agree with Jordan. I mean, I definitely get the frustration. If I'm a Giants fan, I'm pretty pissed off because you could have easily gotten in, and then that happens. But if you're looking at it from the Eagles' perspective, why would you want to win that game? Like, if you're a player, I 100% understand you're playing for your future, you're playing for your contract. You don't really want to go out and just intentionally lose game. It doesn't really sit right. I don't think in anybody's conscience, but I can't really get mad at it because at the end of the day, I like what you said, Jordan, where like, all right, you won 6 games. Like, you shouldn't have been contending for a playoff spot anyway. So the fact that you're 6-10 complaining about this is kind of just stupid because you had a lot of games. You had a lot of close games during the season that you could have won. You lost to the Bears. You lost to the Buccaneers in a really close game. You lost to the Eagles by 1 point like 2 months ago. So you can't really complain now that, you could have done stuff earlier to prevent this from happening. So I'm really unsympathetic to Giants fans.
Yeah.
I'm more of a football team guy anyway. I like what they have going for them, but I get it. I get it from Doug Peterson's perspective. Like, why would you want to get a worse pick and win a game that really doesn't mean anything? Like, you probably hate the Giants more than you hate the Redskins anyway, and you'd want to see the Redskins or the football team get in over them. So
yeah,
I'm not. I would be mad if I were a Giant. I can 100% get it, but I also get it from the other side. So I don't think it's a huge deal.
And additionally,
go ahead,
sorry, Anthony, real quick. Like, the argument, you could make the argument that Peterson why would you want to risk Jalen Hurts getting injured? I mean, if he's what you think of as the future, why, if someone's really going to get mad at you sitting your future franchise quarterback maybe for the 4th quarter of a game that literally means nothing, I mean, what's the point? Well, why would you play him? If he went and, broke his leg, I'm sure the ESPN headlines would be, why was Jalen Hurts playing in the 4th quarter of a game that didn't matter? I mean, I could see.
You can't really win.
Yeah,
honestly.
You could flip the script. So you were pretty much asking the Eagles to really make a poor move for their franchise because you want them to follow some integrity of the game that people made up in the past 24 hours. I mean, It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why people are asking for Doug Peterson to be fired. I mean, if Belichick did that, like Pat said, if it happened to us, I'd be pissed. But if Belichick did that, I'm sure people would be calling it one of those chess not checkers. That's why it's weird. It doesn't. It's because it's Doug Peterson and he just has that name in Philly where people are like, F that guy. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Man, I really Go ahead, Anthony. Sorry.
See, now I'm going to agree and disagree with you guys at the same time because, yes, I get it. The Giants should not be in the playoffs. You won 6 games. you would be in the playoffs if you took care of business against the Eagles back in October on a Thursday night and you didn't blow that big lead that you had down in Philly. Then you would be in the playoffs because technically the Giants and the Washington football team would have the same record, and the Giants swept Washington, so they'd win the tiebreaker. That I would have no problem with. But on the flip side of it, you have this young quarterback, right? It doesn't get all playoff implications that the Eagles were out of your head. You have the chance for this young guy to go in and ruin and knock out a division rival from the playoffs. I mean, granted, either the Giants or Washington were getting in. So you had the best chance to win that game, because at that point in the game, Washington did not look good, like at all. They could not get anything going, and Philly looked like they could have gotten something going. So why not go out of the season on a high note, go into the offseason in this big hoorah, like, yo, look at Jalen Hurts, look what he just did in this game against a top-notch Washington defense, because you can't knock Washington's defense at all. They are still very good. And at the same time, why not use that ride high into the offseason? And look at our future. Look at Jalen Hurts. Look what he just did. And that would give them so much confidence. And I think it would be a really good Eagles offseason instead of having all this animosity in the front office and at the powers of Philadelphia. So
I gotta disagree. I think the whole ride high after the Week 17 win is like an overhyped, just like notion that teams like think, or that the media thinks is like a thing. I just don't see like how Jalen Hurts winning a meaningless game at the end of the season will like catapult his potential to like another level. I mean, like when you say like, start the offseason off on the right foot and come back stronger. I mean, I think you can come back stronger with the 6th pick rather than the 9th pick. I mean, I would give up a Jalen Hurts loss, to a Washington team that doesn't matter for, a spot up 3 picks. I mean, I don't understand. If this was like a situation of like that they were solid in their draft lottery and they didn't need to move up at all and they couldn't move back or up at all, I mean, I'd probably be a little bit different in saying, well, why wouldn't you just play it out? I mean, you had no benefit of it. But considering they, had 3 selections they could have moved up and they took that opportunity, I can't really get mad at them. And I don't see the Hurts, riding off into the sunset of his rookie year, being like a big, I don't know, positive.
now here's the thing. Why wouldn't, if you have a rookie quarterback, say, I don't know, we're going to throw Jarrett Stidham out there. Not that Jarrett Stidham is like, not that he's all that, but you're in a situation going up against a tough defense. The odds are stacked against you. Philly was without Miles Sanders, Fletcher Cox that night, Deshaun Jackson. He was without a lot of weapons. So why not you take your rookie quarterback, say, hey, show me what you got, kid. You're going up against a good defense. So let's see what you can do in the clutch. That's the only, get playoff implications out of your head and get the fact that it's a meaningless game out of your head. This is still a top-notch defense that is playing their hearts out to get into the playoffs. And this game means more to them. So they're probably going to play 1,000%. They're going to leave everything on the field. So why not be like, hey, let's see what you got, kid.
Again, before you go, Pat, I don't disagree with that thought process if there was nothing to benefit from the Eagles losing that game. Like, I take like Justin Jefferson getting taken last year 3 or 4 picks before the Patriots. I mean, that's the difference of what you're talking about. One pick. So even more so, that one pick can change the course of your franchise per se. So for the Eagles to get a chance to move up 3 picks, I really don't see a problem with them doing what they did. I mean, it benefits their franchise more for them to lose that game than to win it. I know you can make the argument that Hurts, it could help Hurts, get that, the feeling of like a regular season playoff game, kind of like you got to win the game, to prevent them from getting in. But I feel like the positives outweigh the negatives when you lose that game.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I get it from both perspectives. I certainly understand anything like wanting to, like, from a player perspective, I feel like, I want to see what this guy has, but I also feel like Jalen Hurts has proved a lot to you already. I mean, I know it's like a different situation and everything. This is kind of like almost a playoff game atmosphere, but like Jordan said, this is the difference between getting, I don't know, like, I'm trying to even think, like you said, even Justin Jefferson, and where we were, even 1 pick. This is a difference of 3 picks, I believe, from 9 to 6.
Yeah.
This is a talented draft, and if you can get a guy like Devontae Smith, if you're the Eagles, or I really don't know a ton
Jalen
of
Waddle.
prospects, but Jalen Waddle, even I mean, just get somebody really talented to help out your team. I get that. You might as well, because you're really not going to gain a whole lot from this game outside of maybe some more confidence in your quarterback. But I think he's already shown you enough to where you should have a good amount of confidence in him. So.
Yeah, just remember, guys, we're here to talk about the playoffs, and we're going to kind of transition back to Washington's matchup this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who they're red hot right now. I mean, you could argue that they played some crappy defenses like Detroit. I'll give you Detroit. They put up 40, 50 something on Detroit. I get that. It's Detroit. You're bound to do it. But you can't knock out Atlanta. You can't knock Atlanta for that, because Atlanta's a gritty team. I mean, yes, they finished the season 4-12, but they were in many situations where they could have won games. They just don't know how to finish. And especially against a division rival. I mean, you can't knock the Buccaneers. Oh, you let up X amount of points and you only beat the Falcons this past week by X amount of points. That's kind of sus. That doesn't sit right. But Brady is still lighting it up. Can I just mention the fact that Tom Brady didn't make the Pro Bowl and Kyler Murray did? Kyler Murray, after he got that nod, or like after the halfway point of the season, he fell off. And there is no debating
Pro
that.
Bowl is a joke. Evan Engram got in and
Yeah.
Evan Engram got in. He has like 500 yards and 1 touchdown. Robert Tonyan has like 600 yards and 10 touchdowns. And I don't even know the other tight end I'm trying to think of, but had a much better season than Evan Engram. But it's a popularity contest because people were like, "Oh, I use Evan Engram in Madden. He's wicked fast. I'll vote him in." So stupid.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Spot on right there.
Yeah.
But I don't think this.
But,
I know a lot of people are
Good
saying that this game is going to be close and everything. Washington could potentially upset Tampa. No freaking way, man. Tampa's going to win this one 38-10.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if it's good. Oh, that's a big.
This one's going to get ugly.
Okay, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think there's a chance Washington wins, but I think they'll slow. I think the Bucs will struggle at the beginning of the game. I think Brady will kind of, do what he normally does and kind of the feel out process. You'll see first quarter, maybe a couple 3 and outs.
Get tired and then bomb it down the field.
Yeah, you kind of get him, down and out Washington, and then you strike. But I think you could see 20 plus put up against Washington. And I mean, Alex Smith, for what it's worth, he's comeback player of the year. He should run away with it, but he's not what he used to be, 6-7 years ago. And he doesn't have enough to compete against, even the Bucs defense, which has fallen off completely. You've got Tom Brady on their side in this first playoff game on a new team, coming off of the last playoff game he played where he looked horrible. I just can't see him losing 2 in a row. So I'm going to pick the Bucs as well. I think this game could stay close at the beginning, but it's going to get to the point where the better quarterback just is able to take over, and that's obviously Tom Brady.
I think Brady's going to make Chase Young eat those words so bad, because it never works out when somebody tries to talk shit to Tom Brady before a game. He always blows them out and absolutely destroys them, kills their hopes completely. And it's even worse because Chase Young's a rookie. Granted, he's amazing, but you don't talk like that to the GOAT when you're a rookie and you really don't have anything to your name. So, I think the Buccaneers should easily win. I don't think Washington's offense is capable of really doing anything, even though Tampa's defense is not that good, at least as it was at the beginning of the year. So I don't have a whole lot to say. Just Brady's going to be out for blood, I think, and that's about it.
Back-to-back matchups I'm excited for.